All right, let's talk about one of the biggest challenges in business right now, actually making AI work. Because, despite all the hype, getting it right is, well, it's really hard. Just how hard? The numbers might actually surprise you. Okay, let's just rip the Band-Aid off. Get this, a staggering 87% of AI projects, they never even make it into production. Think about that. That's almost 9 out of every 10 projects that just fizzle out before they ever see the light of day. And you might think, okay, but what about the ones that do make it? Well, the story doesn't get much better. A whopping 70% of companies that actually implement AI say they see little to no impact. It's this giant gap, right, between what we're promised and what's actually happening. So the big question is, how do you beat those odds? How do you make sure your investment actually pays off? Well, that's what we're going to break down. We'll look at the cracks in the foundation, the often overlooked human factor, some hidden risks, the whole hype versus reality mindset, and then wrap it up with a blueprint for success. All right, let's jump right in. We're going to start with the mistakes that pop up way before anyone even thinks about writing code. It all comes down to strategy. Or, more often than not, a total lack of it. You see this all the time. Companies getting into what you might call random acts of AI. You know the deal. They jump on the bandwagon because they have this fear of missing out, right? They're just chasing the buzzword without a real business case. And what happens? You get these scattered projects all over the place, burning through time and money without moving the needle at all. So, the fix? You've got to be deliberate. It's about starting with one simple question. What problem are we actually trying to solve here? Be specific. Be measurable. Then, from that answer, you build a rock-solid business case. And all of that should feed into a long-term roadmap that treats AI like a core part of your strategy, not just some fun side project. And that brings us to the next huge crack in the foundation, your data. I mean, you've all heard the saying garbage in, garbage out, right? Well, with AI, it's never been more true. Your AI model is only ever going to be as good as the data you feed it, period. And just how big a deal is this? It's huge. Get this. A mind-boggling 85% of AI project failures come down to bad data. Either the quality is terrible, or they just don't have the right data. So if your data house isn't in order, your AI project is pretty much doomed before it even starts. So what's the takeaway here? You have to start treating your data like the strategic asset it is. That means, investing in things like data governance, so your info is clean and reliable. It means knocking down those walls between departments, those data silos, to get a full picture. And most importantly, you've got to do a data readiness check before you start, so you know exactly where the problems are and can fix them. Okay, so let's say you've got a great strategy and your data is pristine. You're still not done, because successful AI isn't just about the tech. It's really fundamentally about people, the talent on your team and the culture you create around them. Look, there's a massive talent gap in AI right now. Everyone's fighting for the same people, so you really need a two-pronged attack. For sure, you can go out and try to hire experienced engineers or partner up with external experts, but you also have to build that talent from within. I mean, look at Amazon. They started a program to train over 100,000 of their own employees in these skills. That's how you build a lasting capability. And beyond just skills, you've got to manage the cultural shift. AI is going to change how people work. It's going to change their roles. If you just drop some new shiny AI tool on your team without explaining why it's there and how to use it, well, you're going to get resistance. You're going to get confusion. And honestly, the best AI model on the planet is completely worthless if nobody actually uses it. All right, this next part is fascinating because it shows how you can do everything right on the tech side and still run into massive problems. We're talking about the hidden risks, ethics, and security. Let's take a look at a really famous case study in ethical failure. So Amazon decided to build an AI tool to help them sort through job applications. Seemed like a good idea, right? But here's the catch. The data they trained it on was a decade of their own hiring data, which, because of the history of the tech industry, was heavily skewed towards men. So what happened? Well, the AI didn't just copy that human bias. It cranked it up to 11. The system literally taught itself that resumes with the word women's in them, like, say, captain of the women's chess club, were bad. It started penalizing them. The whole project was a disaster, and they had to shut it down. It's a perfect example of how AI, without the right guardrails, can turn into a legal and PR nightmare. And then there's security. This is another area where there's just a massive disconnect. Check out this stat. 96% of leaders agree that generative AI creates new security risks. Okay, great. But only 24% have actually done anything about it. That is a gigantic, flashing red light of a vulnerability. And this isn't just some theoretical thing. Look at what happened at Samsung. It's a perfect cautionary tale. Some of their engineers uploaded confidential source code into ChatGPT to ask for help fixing it. They basically just handed over the company's secret sauce to a third party. As you can imagine, that led to an immediate company-wide ban on the tool. Okay, on to our last big pitfall. And this one isn't so much about tech or data, it's about psychology. It's all about managing expectations and that huge gap between the hype and the reality. It's so easy for leaders to fall into the hype trap, right? They hear about AI and think it's some kind of magic wand that's going to deliver instant results and be perfect right out of the box. But the reality is that AI is a messy, iterative process. It's a long-term commitment that needs constant tweaking, testing, and improving. So how do you avoid that? You have to keep your organization grounded in reality. First thing, educate everybody, from the top floor to the front lines, on what AI can really do and what it can't. Next, set realistic goals. Maybe aim for a 15% improvement, not some 10x moonshot on day one. And finally, you just have to embrace that iterative mindset. See every launch, every test as a chance to learn and improve. Okay, so we've walked through all the ways things can go wrong. So what does it look like when it goes right? Let's put all the pieces together into a blueprint for success. So, what's the blueprint? The most important thing to remember is that you need a holistic approach. It's not just one thing. You absolutely need that high-level vision coming from the top, but you also need that solid foundation of good data. You need skilled people who are on board with the changes, and you need the right processes in place. We're talking strong ethical rules, solid security, and a real plan for managing change. All of these pieces have to work together. And that really leaves us with one final question for you to think about. As you go on your own AI journey, you have to ask yourself, are we building a real, lasting capability here? Or are we just chasing the buzz? Because honestly, the answer to that question will probably decide whether you end up in that 87% or in the small group that actually gets it right.